This is Sam Collins and Norman Pappous with Neal Dikeman. Norm had a question on our last segment about our natural resource. Norm, go back.
Okay, so future Senator Dikeman, you were talking, we were asking you a question about the environment, but you implied that you would need a long time to speak about the environment.
Well, I'm not taking environment in 30 seconds. That's fine.
That's fine.
Let's spend some time.
The left historically has been the home for the environmentalists. Okay. However, it's very strange that occurs because the right typically has more people that enjoy things like hunting and fishing and hiking and that kind of thing. So to me, that's always been kind of crazy. I'm actually left of center on the environment because I think that the air, the water, the sea, the soil, belong to all of us. And if you screw with them, you do so at the peril of my children, which I get very angry about.
Right.
So where does future Senator Dikeman sit on pollution controls and how you balance that against, let's say, the energy sector?
So libertarians would agree with you. We don't actually believe that the environment belongs on the political spectrum. I think that's frankly ridiculous. I've spent a lot of my career in clean tech. I was one of the early guys and entrepreneurs and venture capitalists in clean tech. I've founded 6 technology companies around energy and energy technology, from solar to carbon to smart grid. Over and over and over.
Is there such a thing as clean coal? Just curious. Since you seem to be the expert.
Actually, I've written some articles on that way back in the day. At the very least, there is such thing as cleaner coal. There are some technical challenges with getting to where the clean coal industry was trying to get there, and some cost challenges with the technologies that we know how to get done that are a bit problematic. But I will not fault any industry for working their tail off to trying to improve the efficiency and productivity and environmental impact of their product.
Okay.
So first off, libertarian does not mean anti-environment. I know some people might have that in their heads, but that's not the way the world works. Because you're right, a lot of libertarians live out in the country, and in fact, one of our strongest voting regions in Texas are the Austin Quad, the 4 counties around Austin: Hayes County, Travis County, Williamson, and Bastrop, and the Trans-Pecos region west of the Pecos River and east of El Paso, where there isn't really a town over about 15,000 people. And the vast majority of people who live out there live because they want to live in the country. They want to live close to nature. Our goals and our objectives are not incompatible here. Libertarians on the environment start with the premise of basically property rights, right? And we basically apply property rights to everything. It's our ubiquitous topic, and that's true of the environment as well. So just while we talked earlier about use of force and the non-aggression principle, we kind of apply that to environmental protection. Look, if I've got well-defined property rights, I'll take care of my property, and if the environmental property rights are well-defined, then I'll take care of those. If they're poorly defined, ain't nobody going to take care of them. And that's what happens in a lot of our environmental challenges. I think where libertarians sometimes struggle is when you get into the parts of the protection of the environment where the property rights, even when well-defined, actually are shared at some level or have to be shared or dealt with in common, where it's a little bit more challenging to figure out how to best do that without stepping on the rights of that landowner or that business relative to the rights of the individual. But as I said when we started the first segment, I have a 3-year-old and 5-year-old. I think of environmental stewardship in the same way that I think of fiscal responsibility. It's job number 1. You don't get to kick that can down to my daughter. Mm-hmm. So among the things that I worked on back in the day was carbon management. And we worked on a platform to basically streamline the cost of abating carbon through cap and trade systems, mm-hmm. which I think for a number of reasons is far and away the best choice to deal with CO2, as CO2 is this nasty little thing that does not care, the only environmental pollutant that does not care where in the world it's put in or taken out. It's not like a local criterion air pollutant where, if it's on my property, it's my problem. This one moves, and it moves all around the earth, not just from county to county. So while you might be able to handle a lot of pollution at a very local level, you can't handle CO2 that way. Hence something like cap and trade, which allows industry to figure out the least cost path to abate carbon and deal with it, with the government setting up, if nothing else, just rules of the road in consultation with that industry, and the price set by a market mechanism. So when you've got to go to that end. I'd much rather than command and control. And God knows no carbon tax where we take the environment and at its expense try and generate revenue for the government. Let's do something that is a market-based mechanism that will sunset itself once it's fixed, and then will actually deliver the fix to the problem. And let's do it in conjunction with industry and conjunction with the citizens who are affected.
Would Senator Dikeman have pulled out of Paris or Kyoto?
So Kyoto was a wonderful system with some fatal flaws. The big fatal flaw was, at the time, the emerging markets, which were far and away the dirtiest polluters, were not signing up to commitments. So both the Democrat and the Republican administration refused to sign. It was best efforts. And it essentially was a stage one.
But it goes beyond that. Because
give me a second here. So I fully understand why the United States would not sign on to a deal that essentially was going to create a trade imbalance between us and China. That makes sense. We don't need any more trade imbalances. We're for free trade. That's moving pretty far from free trade. Yeah, that doesn't mean that we couldn't have helped push over time a system that would have been something we could have signed on to.
But Kyoto went beyond that, and this is at the time when I was doing a lot of policy wonking. The Kyoto Accords had certain levels that everybody had to agree to. And there were 13 countries, I believe, that agreed to them. Everybody else was best efforts, including China, which was coming online as to be a major manufacturer. W pulls out of them. The entire world says the world is going to end because the Kyoto Accords are not going to be fulfilled. The European Union went ahead and instituted them anyway, only they did it without the word Kyoto. 3 years after they instituted them, the head of the program comes before the European Parliament and says, "We have never met the benchmarks. We said we were going to meet under the agreement, and I don't see any way we can."
So what Kyoto managed to do as a mechanism, if you think of it from a policy perspective, and remember, when we get into something like this, what we're really talking about is how do we deal with the problem with the least government intervention and the least cost path to damage the economy, because there's going to be some cost here. And eventually it's not going to be governments or industry that bears it. It's all you and I. We bear the environmental cost and we bear the environmental cleanup cost. It's always on the citizens. Kyoto was a massive experiment, global experiment, in how you mobilize private capital to attack a global environmental problem. And it worked. It mobilized capital, resources, and technology in light speed compared to what usually happens in the environmental sector. And in conjunction, and we see this today, China may not have signed the protocol, but it sent a signal, my customers care. And we see the rise of the renewables industry, we see the rise of EVs, the rise of numerous number of clean tech industries that when I started out, these companies and these businesses were barely nascent. I mean, the revenues wouldn't make a decent sized public company for the whole industry. And today there are multiple $50 to $100 billion industries in those segments. Multiple, not just one, just over and over and over and over again. And today you can put in a solar plant and a wind plant at cheaper than you can put in a gas plant.
Okay,
right?
Move forward
we're
to Paris.
Actually solving the problem.
Okay, move forward to Paris. Trump comes in, he promised to pull out of Paris, he pulls out of Paris. Pollution data comes out. The American Enterprise Institute, I believe, was the think tank that said, you know something, we pulled out of it, and we're performing better as the United States than all the other countries who wanted to stay in Paris.
We are, because we're awesome.
We are awesome.
Which brings me to this.
Let me ask you this question, though. We have two treaties, both of which we didn't need. Now, the world needs them as a community.
Don't say that. Don't say that. Because remember, CO2 is that one that goes.
Yes,
does not care
but
where
that's my
goes.
point. What I'm saying is
just because we're awesome, we need everybody else.
What I'm saying
awesome
is that we're doing our part. And we're doing our part better than everybody else.
So I hate this argument. Here's why I hate this argument.
No, you haven't heard what I'm going to say.
I do. The doing your part argument. I hate that argument.
No, that's not what I'm going to say.
All right, go on.
We are doing our part. The data says that. My point is that both of these agreements, when you look at them, a lot of people on the right, and myself included, feel that they had a secondary reason for being there and a secondary reason for being negotiated, and that was to equalize wealth distribution. so that we would export jobs to third world countries, and give them, give corporations tax credits, saying if you can, put a job in Bangladesh and hire all these Bangladeshis, et cetera, you're wonderful, you're going to get a tax deduction. Then it comes around through the other door. They say, well, Bangladesh has a pollution problem and they don't have the money to fix it. Well, they have a pollution problem because we gave them the manufacturing.
We exported pollution. Yes. Well, we exported both manufacturing and the pollution, and that's the leakage problem. And look, you're partially right, but I'll say
partially.
I hate the way you frame that question, because with environmental issues and certainly with CO2, doing your part is not the goal. The goal is to get the job done. My daughter will drink clean water. My daughter will have clean air to breathe. My daughter's not going to have asthma problems. You do not get to mess with my daughter.
Right.
Yeah, so just saying you've done your part, sorry, dude, yeah, we still got smog. We still got a problem. We're going to keep working until it's fixed. Yeah, I'm not stopping. Right? And people like me, libertarians, we didn't wait for the government to act. We launched companies to work on these problems, regardless of what the U.S. did.
I am with you, but I have a hard problem.
We're going to talk about the trade issues of cap and trade and climate change and environment. One of the challenges with this system design, if you design a cap and trade system badly, and Warner Lieberman was a really badly designed cap and trade system that they knew wasn't going to pass, and hope to God they would have fixed the bill before it went out, because it would have been an absolute disaster. If you design it badly, what you do is you create really bad trade impacts, because carbon is essentially a cost, and environmental pollution is essentially a cost in everybody's supply chain that we aren't accounting for well now. And so the point of these mechanisms is both to ensure that we account for it and make sure we can figure out who's supposed to pay for it. Back to the libertarian, you caused it, you pay for it. You don't get to drop your problem on me without paying for it. Yeah, the challenge with some of the systems designed in Kyoto and that they're working on through Paris, and what we were trying to write in bills in this country, the left, when they were pushing these bills, got enamored with the revenue generation portions of the bill, i.e., we can sell these credits and these allowances, and we can make money to deal with other agendas. Guys, the environment is not a revenue generating opportunity. This isn't something where the government is allowed to go send us new taxes just to fix something that we should have fixed before. Right? That's not the way the world's supposed to work. So if you took that off the table, the problem in the US and in a lot of Europe was you started losing votes from the left. The people who were supposed to be all for protecting the environment, if you took away their revenue stream, they weren't going to back the bill. This is ridiculous. That needs to be called out and nailed and driven through that into that coffin.
Was anybody calling that out when it was happening?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. AIDA was talking about this all the time. That's the International Emissions Trading Association, which we were a member of way back in the day. Yeah. So on the right, we need to stop talking about the environment as something that only lefties do, because that's just not cool. I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. I am not a progressive liberal lefty, right? I still care about the environment. If you go to my family's cattle ranch in Central Texas, you're going to see signs up there as part of the local fish and wildlife district set up by the guy down the road, to help make sure that we actually have wildlife to hunt and birds to watch and fish to fish for. And I'll tell you my little anecdote about why I think this is important for all of us. When my dad used to tell me when he was growing up, they caught horned frogs. You know what a horned frog is, right? I've never seen a horned frog in the wild. My daughters, when I was growing up, we used to catch fireflies. I liked catching fireflies. They were fun. Now, maybe it's not very environmentalist or nice, but I was 5. Come on, give me a break. My daughters have never seen a firefly in the wild. This has to stop. This is not the way I want their generation to continue.
I got to interject myself here and tell them something, because you and I are a lot of the same on this environmental thing. 90% I'd say. But as somebody who's been in campaigns since 1978, and sometimes at a high level, you got to start your pitch with those 2 stories.
So I'm going to tell you a secret. When I did my very first speech for the Libertarian Party at at Tarrant County. Tarrant County Libertarian Party put on a candidate night and forum, and I went up and gave my first speech. Our lieutenant governor candidate, Kerry McKinnon, told me afterwards, he said, yeah, Neal, you got some good stuff, but you came across as pretty arrogant. And I'm great. Actually, he used stronger language than that. And then he said, but once you got to the point where you started talking about your daughters, people realized that you were like a normal person or human or something, and they liked you again, and so they listened to your policies. When we got to the next speech, I flipped my script and I started. That's why I started at the very beginning of our first segment. I've got a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. That's why I'm running. And because you're absolutely right. And then our Senate candidate for against John Cornyn in the last election was Rebecca Paddock. When we were first talking about policies and messaging and how to bring a campaign together, because she's been advising me from the beginning, she gave me similar advice. She said, Neal, what's your cause? So I started to go through all these issues, my policies. She says, no. Those are your issues. What's your cause? And finally, after an hour of talking, she says, all right, basically be quiet, Neal. I'm going to tell you, I know your cause. I'm going to tell you your cause. Your cause is your children. And so we've started to frame, and we have framed all of the way we talk to constituents in terms of this. I start every single talk with, hi, I'm Neal Dikeman. I'm running for Senate. I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, and they're why I'm here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and because you're absolutely right. This is, whether it's environment or fiscal responsibility or the American worker, it's about, I have a daughter who's going to be in the workforce in 20 years, and I expect her to have some opportunity. I have a daughter who's going to be out there.
We're going to get back to it. Sam, go ahead.
Yeah, Norm and I have talked about this before. We both have children. I have 4 children.
How old are your kids?
22, 20, 18, and 9. Wow. My 18-year-old is at A&M now.
Awesome.
He went as he transferred in some hours.
What's he studying?
Physics.
Physics. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
He's smart like his mom.
What is he going to do when he finishes?
Don't know yet.
Yeah?
I'm trying to keep him focused to finish, because really he's looking at maybe going back into engineering. They were too full, so he went into physics to take some of the same classes.
A&M's got a great physics program.
And then he's gonna end up in the engineering department, and also wants to do entrepreneurship. So I think sometimes he thinks I don't really work, so he wants to do some of the stuff that I do, but he doesn't understand what it takes to get to where Dad is at.
It's okay, he'll learn.
Yeah, he'll learn. He's an Aggie.
Exciting. He's an Aggie.
Hey,
Remember, Aggies never lose, only sometimes we run out of time. That's the way I believe this race is going.
Yeah, I went to the Clemson game. We just ran out of time.
We just ran out of time.
Yeah, so.
One more drive.
Yeah, Norm and I, education is important to us. We talked about that. We believe it's a state issue, not really a federal issue.
I agree with you.
Why should abortion rights not be treated the same?
In general, I think libertarians believe it is, but at heart, we believe that boils down to the non-aggression principle, and it's a force thing, and we don't really think the government has any business sticking its head in that issue. It's to me, and I'm personally pro-choice, though I have a lot of voters and a lot of constituents, family and friends who are not. They're pro-life, and they're very strongly pro-life. Yeah, and I tell them, what I tell everybody. Look. This is an issue between you, your family, and God, and it's really not something that I intend to let the government get involved with, because if we let them get involved in that one, they're going to want to be involved in a lot of other issues that should be between you, your family, and God, and I'm not okay with that. This literally is a there but for the grace of God go I issue.
I heard you say earlier, we on the right, when you were speaking to Norm about the nature things. So it seems like you're more right-leaning than left, unless that was just a little slip.
It's been a little challenging as a libertarian because we work on a right-left political spectrum. Mm-hmm. And if you put me on that spectrum, maybe I come a little bit right of center. Yeah, but some of my policies are to the left of the left. Yeah, so we really just don't fit there well. So I got to be honest, the lingo of how you talk as a libertarian and communicate to voters is hard. We've been trying to learn not how to just talk in libertarian lingo, because libertarians,
you have to get rid of the linearity of politics.
They won't use the linearity.
Pervades
So our more philosophical-minded libertarian candidates, they will not use that spectrum at all because they know it doesn't fit. I've been working very hard to try and communicate where we are as the middle, in a way so that we can start telling people libertarian principles are not actually the fringe, they just happen to come from both sides. Yeah, but we don't have great lingo to do that. So we're working on that as we go.
I'll put on my consultant hat right now and tell you guys should start referring to it as the center.
As
rather
the center,
than
not the middle? Well, libertarians, for the record, do not like being called either the center or the middle. We reject that this right-left phenomenon is actually the way the world should be viewed.
I think winning elections will take care of that. I think
exactly.
We'll take care of that.
I'm all about let's find the voters, get them to listen to us, listen to them, and figure out how to deliver an impact, and the rest takes care of itself.
Well, I think we're going to have to go on to a fourth segment here because we still have about our fourth segment because we still have some areas to cover with Neal Dikeman, who's the Libertarian candidate for Senate from the great state of Texas. We hope you're enjoying this. Sam and I certainly are, learning about libertarian politics and policies. And we also really want to get in our next segment exactly how Neal is going to win this race, because right now he's not getting a lot of coverage, even though, granted,
from you guys,
because we're great.
But you're awesome.
But how are you going to get a wider audience? Don't answer it. That's going to be next segment. This is Sam Collins and Norman Pappous coming back from Meet in the Middle. Come back to Meet in the Middle Chronicles. Next segment. It's going to be great. Thanks.